Good evening, and welcome to the Berkeley Art Museum and Pacific Film Archive. My name's Kathy Garretts, and I'm one of the curators here. This evening we're at, a crossroads is not quite the right word, but two series intersect. The ongoing Documentary Voices series with Natalia Brizuela's documentary film class, and the first evening in the African Film Festival. So each year we bring a selection of mostly recent films from Africa. It's a tour organized out of New York by Mahan Benetti, who also organizes the New York African Film Festival. So we're really grateful for this opportunity year after year to really get to immerse ourselves in contemporary African film. This particular year's festival has as a major thread works by and about women, including tonight's program. I also want to let you know that as a special section of the film festival, next week the legendary director Souleymane Cissé from Mali will be traveling here, actually from Mali. No direct flights, he has to go to Paris, etc. And so it's going to be a really special, wonderful opportunity to hear him speak about his work and to immerse ourselves in 3 of his films, which have been long unavailable. And in fact, 2 of them were without English subtitles, but luckily, locally, we found a Bambara speaker who is going to be willing to do electronic titling for those 2 films. So that, I was super happy to find that person. So anyhow, just letting you know, because those are some very special programs in addition to tonight's program. So back to tonight. The feature, as you know, is Chez, Jolie, Coiffure, and Cornelius Moore is going to introduce that program. So I'm going to just briefly introduce Cornelius, who is the co-director of the film distribution and production company California Newsreel, a real local treasure, both in terms of political and workers' films and videos, but also they had a long-term project, which is not as active right now, but of bringing a library of African cinema, which was introduced many of us to an incredible array of important works that we should have already known, but got to know deeply through their work. So we're, as always, really happy to have him here. But first, we're going to show a short, and the filmmaker of the short is here, and we'll introduce it. So Ellen Spiro recently relocated from Austin, Texas, where she taught for many years, and very nice to have her here. We've shown many of her films, very humorous and savvy works over the years, including, I'm going to say a bunch of the titles because she has really good titles. Greetings from Out Here, Rome, Sweet Home, Atomic Ed in the Black Hole, Troop 1500, and Body of War. Really strong, interesting array of work. And now we're here to see a remix of an earlier short of hers. Please welcome Ellen Spiro.
Thank you for that great introduction, Kathy Garretts, who I've known for many decades, and I've known of her great programming also for many decades. So you can see that she puts a lot into the programming here. So this is an interesting little short that I shot in one day about a year ago with my good friend, the filmmaker Cheryl Dunye. We started making films in the late 80s and early 90s in New York together. And I made this film in 88 called Diana's Hair Ego, which was shot in a hair salon in South Carolina during the AIDS crisis. And people were just starting to talk about safe sex in New York, as a way to prevent AIDS. And this woman down in South Carolina was doing this really funny safe sex AIDS education in her beauty salon amongst the African-American community there, women, of course. And so she was hearing all sorts of stories about sexual practices because that's what people say to hairdressers. And she realized there was this problem, and so she just decided to do this. And I happened to run into her on a protest with ACT UP in South Carolina, and so we were commissioned, Cheryl and I, by a group called Visual Aids, which is an arts organization based in New York that sort of helps work get produced. And they came back 30 years later and asked us to do this thing. So it's 32 years later, and we go back to the beauty salon in South Carolina.
Good evening, I'm Cornelius Moore, and thank you, Kathy, for inviting me to introduce Chez, Jolie, Coiffure. And I just wanted to say to Ellen, I remember Diana's hair, Diana's hair ego from the time they first came out, and actually the place where I got my hair cut, the woman who cuts the hair also has condoms in her salon, still does. And I told her about the film, and she was very excited about it. So then, and it is interesting that we still have the same issues confronting our community 30 years hence. Thank you for doing this. And it's very apropos that in great programming that we have these two films together. And Chez, Jolie, Coiffure, because that Diana's Here You Go is about a hair salon in the Black American community and that part of the African diaspora, and Chez, Jolie, Coiffure is about the continental African diaspora, and how they both, the issues sort of resonate, and that the hair salon is an important community space, and where people can a clearinghouse for essential information, for support networks, and places for economic bartering and all kinds of things. And you'll see that in this film today. Chez, Jolie, Coiffure means in French at the hairdressing place, something like that. I was not familiar with the filmmaker Rosine Mbakam, who is from Cameroon, but this film was showing at a Black Film Festival in Brazil, in Rio de Janeiro, called Encontro de Cinema Negro, Zozumo Bobul, and it resonated. Chez, Jolie, Coiffure really resonated with that audience as well. That film festival, although it mainly focuses on work by Afro-Brazilians, it also it includes films by people from the Caribbean, from the U.S., as well as the African continent. In fact, the reason why I was there is because they had a tribute to Marlon Riggs, who more than 30 years ago, did Tongues Untied. So it was a 30th anniversary of Marlon's work, and that was a very special occasion. But back to this film, I'm really glad that there are more women from the African continent making films, and which is has been a long time coming, but it's certainly time for that to happen. This film, one of the nice things about this film is it's both very intimate, about focusing on within the hair salon, but also you get very intensely a feeling of what it's like to be in there, because the film doesn't leave the salon, but you still get a sense of what's out there and what the people who are, and particularly women who are in the salon, what they deal with when they leave. I mean, there you'll see it's in a district where there are African businesses in the city of Brussels, where there are a lot of immigrants from the African continent. A lot of people, as a result of colonialism, first because there were the Belgium colonized the Congo So there are quite a few immigrants from there, but some of the immigrants here portrayed are from Cameroon and other parts of West Africa. But the people from outside don't understand the culture, and people you see them walking by as if the people are really strange in the zoo when they walk by to see what this hair salon is like. For Black people, the hair salon is a refuge, and they can keep all those the people who think that we're exotic away, and we can not have that world intrude. And the film, I think, really captured that. And I look forward to more works by this filmmaker. She has another film that I read about, which I've not seen, but focuses on female members of her family back in Cameroon. So she's someone who certainly is talented and has taken the documentary form and is using that to give a voice to African women, and people who are not African women want to appreciate it. They can do that, but that's the form of the film. It's not necessarily for audiences who are not African women, but they can appreciate the visions and the ideas and the voices of African women. So I hope you enjoy this film, and thank you for coming to see me.